I don't usually share stuff like this online, but I keep thinking about it. Maybe writing it down will help me sleep better. I used to work at this quick stop on the east side of town. Nothing fancy, just your typical gas station store with fluorescent lights that buzz all night and make everything look sick and yellow. I took the graveyard shift because it paid $1.50 more per hour and I needed the money. 3 months in, things started getting weird. Not scary weird at first, just annoying weird. Every morning when I'd come in for my shift, the storage room looked different. Cases of soda would be stacked wrong, or boxes of chips would be pushed to one side. I figured maybe Derek, the day guy, was just messy. But then I started noticing food going missing. Small stuff. A bag of chips here, a sandwich there. Derek swore it wasn't him when I asked. He seemed genuinely confused about it. The thing that really got to me was this weird smell in the storage room. Kind of musty, like old clothes that had been sitting in a damp basement. I kept asking my manager to check the ventilation, but he just shrugged it off. Said old buildings smell funny sometimes. Then one night, this was maybe 2 weeks ago, I heard something. I was restocking the cooler, and there was this scratching sound coming from above me. Like fingernails on wood, but too deliberate, too rhythmic. Scratch, scratch, pause, scratch, scratch, pause. I grabbed the stepladder and pushed up one of those ceiling tiles, just darkness up there. The smell hit me though, that same musty smell, but stronger. I should have looked harder, should have brought a flashlight. But honestly, I chickened out. Something about sticking my head up into that dark space just felt wrong. I put the tile back and tried to forget about it. The next few nights were quiet. Almost too quiet, you know? Like when your neighbor's dog suddenly stops barking and you realize you'd gotten used to the noise. But I kept getting this feeling, like someone was watching me. You know that feeling when you're walking alone at night and your skin starts crawling? That's what it was like during my entire shift, every shift. I'd be counting the register and glance up expecting to see a customer, but the store would be empty. Or I'd be mopping the floors, and I swear I could feel eyes on me. I started checking the mirrors in the corners obsessively, but never saw anything. Last week, I finally decided to check the security footage. I told myself I was being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Plus, my manager had been asking about the missing inventory, and I wanted to prove it wasn't me. I stayed late one morning after my shift and went through the recordings on the office computer. Started with the most recent night and worked backward. At first, everything looked normal. Just me, doing my usual routine. Restocking, cleaning, helping the occasional late-night customer. But then I noticed something in the background of one shot. Between the aisles, just for a second, there was a shadow. A person-shaped shadow. I rewound it. Watched it again. There. Behind the cereal aisle. Someone was standing there. Just standing. Watching me work. My hands were shaking as I kept going through the footage. Night after night, there he was. This thin guy in dark clothes, moving through the store like he owned the place. Eating food right off the shelves, going into the bathroom, and always watching me. The worst part was how close he got sometimes. In one clip, I'm bent over cleaning something off the floor, and he's literally 3 feet behind me. Just standing there. I had no idea. I called the police immediately. They came out and found his little nest up in the ceiling. Blankets, empty food containers, and notebooks. Pages and pages of notes about me. What time I took my breaks. How I always checked my phone at 2:17 a.m. The fact that I bite my nails when I'm nervous. He knew I drove the blue Honda. Knew I lived on Maple Street because he'd been going through the store's dumpster and found some of my mail. The police said he'd been watching the store for months before I even started working there. They caught him 2 days later trying to break into what he thought was my apartment building. Turns out he'd copied a key from my work keys somehow. The locksmith said it was a pretty good copy too. I quit that same day. Haven't been back since. But sometimes, when I'm at home now, I still get that feeling. like someone's watching. I know it's just in my head, but I keep checking my locks. And I never throw mail away at work anymore. The police said he was probably harmless. Just some mentally ill guy who got obsessed. But I keep thinking about those notebooks, about how detailed they were, about how close he got without me ever knowing. I still can't sleep properly. Every little sound makes me jump. My cat knocked over a lamp last night and I nearly had a heart attack. I guess what really gets to me is how long it went on. Weeks and weeks of him just there, watching everything I did, learning about me. And I never knew. My name is Jessica. I worked at this small convenience store on the edge of town for about 2 years. It was one of those places open 24 hours with flickering lights outside and shelves full of chips and sodas. Nothing fancy. I took the night shifts because the pay was a bit better, and I needed the money for school. Most nights were boring. Stocking shelves, dealing with drunks, that kind of thing. But then this one guy started showing up. It was every Tuesday, around 11 p.m. He'd come in, middle-aged, wearing a plain jacket and jeans. Always bought the same stuff: zip ties, duct tape, and a couple energy drinks. Paid cash, no card. He was polite, said thanks, quietly, but never looked me in the eye. Just grabbed his things and left fast. At first, I didn't think much of it. People buy weird combos all the time. Maybe he was fixing something at home late at night. After a month or so, it started to bug me. Why always Tuesdays? Why always that late? I mentioned it to my coworker Tom one day when we were mopping the floor. The mop bucket had this squeaky wheel that drove me nuts every time we moved it. Tom laughed at first, said, "Oh, that guy? He's been coming for over a year." Then he got serious. But wait. I've never seen him on my shifts. I work mostly days or with other guys. That stuck with me. Tom said the man only showed up when girls were working alone. No dudes around. I brushed it off, thought maybe coincidence. But next Tuesday, I watched closer. He came in at 11, same routine. This time he asked, "You work here a lot at night?" I said yeah, trying to sound casual. He nodded, didn't smile, just paid and left. A few days later, I was outside taking a smoke break. Yeah, I know, bad habit, but it helped with the long hours. I saw him in the parking lot earlier, like 9 p.m. Not coming in, just walking by the windows slow, looking inside. Then he turned around and left. Didn't buy anything. That night, no show at 11. But the next Tuesday, when I was alone again, there he was. I started feeling jumpy. Like I'd hear the doorbell ding and flinch a little. One night, after he left, I checked the security camera quick. Saw him get into an old car, nothing special. But he sat there for a minute, writing something before driving off. What was he writing? Tom and I talked more. He remembered this one time the floor mats got all sticky from a spilled soda, and we had to scrub them forever. While we were doing that, he said, "You know, he's asked about other girls too. Like Sarah, who quit last year. Asked when she worked next." Sarah had left suddenly, said the job creeped her out. I decided to ask him something next time. Tuesday came. He walked in, grabbed his zip ties, tape, drinks. At the counter I said, "You come here a lot." "Fixing something?" He paused, looked at the counter, not me. "Yeah, projects." Then he asked, "You ever switch shifts? Work days?" I mumbled no, and he left. That did it. I went to my manager the next day. The office smelled like old coffee because he never cleaned the pot. I said, "Can we check the footage? This guy's weird." Manager sighed, but pulled up the tapes. We went back months. There he was, every Tuesday night with a girl alone. But more, on other days, he'd walk the lot, peek in. Only enter if no guy's inside. Then we saw his car on the edge of the lot sometimes. Zoomed in one clip. He had a notebook open, writing while staring at the store. Manager called the cops. They came, watched the tapes, searched his car later. Notebooks full of names. Mine, Sarah's, others. Shifts. What we talked about on the phone. Even license plates from our cars in the lot. Police said he'd done this at stores in 3 counties. Building files on women who worked nights alone. In his apartment they found plans. Maps of stores, times when we'd be solo. Tools like the ones he bought. They think he was gearing up for kidnaps or worse. Never happened to us, but close. I quit after that. Still check my locks twice at night. Hear a car slow down outside, and I freeze. What if he wasn't the only one? I don't often talk about it, but there's this memory. I used to work the graveyard shift at a lonesome convenience store, a beacon of fluorescent light on the town's frayed edge. The night was loud with rain. Thunder hit the roof like someone throwing rocks. Around midnight, the power went out. The generator kicked in after a few seconds. It only powered the register lights in the fridges. The cameras and electric locks stayed dead. I grabbed a flashlight. I forgot to take the trash out that night, so the break room smelled like old coffee and damp paper. About an hour into the outage, I heard the back door. Sound of a hand on a handle. The back door should have been locked. It has an electric latch. I walked slow. The door was slightly open. Wet prints led from the door into storage. "Hello?" I called. I thought maybe my manager or the owner came. No answer. I followed the footprints with my light. Then a noise came from aisle 4. A scrape. I moved toward it. The sound stopped. I waited. Then it started in aisle 2. Every time I went to the sound, it moved away. It was like someone was staying just out of sight. I know how dumb that sounds. I thought maybe it was a raccoon or a cat that slipped in. But then small things didn't add up. The noises came after I walked a different way. The person seemed to know my steps. It felt like, someone was edging me toward the back. For 20 minutes I walked, flashlight shaking, calling out, "Hey! You okay?" Nothing. Once I thought I saw a sleeve. Once I heard a soft laugh. Once I felt a breeze on the back of my neck and spun and saw only aisle shadows. I tried logic. I tried to be calm. It didn't help. Then I realized what was happening. The noises were not hiding. They were hurting me. Little sounds would guide me past the front doors and toward the back room. I ran to the front to get out. The glass didn't open. Someone had piled shopping carts against it from outside. A wall of metal and plastic. I banged and shouted like an idiot. My phone had no signal. Rain drowned the calls. I went back inside. The generator kept lights at the counters, but not the security stuff. For 3 hours, I kept moving, trying to keep sight of every aisle. The person stayed at the edges. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse, an arm, a shoe, or only hear a breath. I would step closer, and the noise would slide away. It was like they were reading me. After the lights came back, the overhead buzzed, and the cameras woke. I stood there, hands sore, heart loud. The video later showed me pacing. It showed something else in quick flashes. But the person was gone when I ran to the back. We found their camp in the unused basement storage. Blankets, canned food, a small cot, a change of clothes. There were footprints in dust and wet marks that matched the prints from the night. Tiny holes in the floorboards where someone could look up. They had been living there, probably for weeks, watching me, learning when I took smoke breaks, when I stacked chips, where I kept an extra key under a loose plank. I quit a week later. I left my bag on the counter and walked out. I still drive by sometimes and look. The manager said he fixed the locks. The cops saw the basement stuff and left with a shrug. The cameras had weird gaps during the outage, times when the feed blinked. I remember my keys jingling and that my uniform shirt had a coffee stain I never bothered to wash that night, smelling faintly. I don't tell this much. I don't like telling it. But if you work nights, or if you're alone in a store and the back door clicks during a storm. Double check the latches, and maybe, don't follow the sounds, not alone.